The scientific man does not aim at an immediate result. He does not expect that his advanced ideas will be readily taken up. His work is like that of the planter for the future. His duty is to lay the foundation for those who are to come and point the way. From my childhood, I had been intended for the clergy. This prospect hung like a dark cloud on my mind. The scientists of today think deeply instead of clearly. One must be sane to think clearly, but one can think deeply and be quite insane. I myself eschew all stimulants. I also practically abstain from meat. The feeling is constantly growing on me that I had been the first to hear the greeting of one planet to another. As in nature, all is ebb and tide, all is wave motion. So it seems that in all branches of industry, alternating currents, electric wave motion, will have the sway. The spread of civilization may be likened to a fire. First, a feeble spark, next a flickering flame, then a mighty blaze, ever increasing in speed and power. By an irony of fate, my first employment was as a draftsman. I hated drawing. It was for me the very worst of annoyances. Fortunately, it was not long before I secured the position I sought, that of chief electrician to the telephone company. There is no doubt that some plant food, such as oatmeal, is more economical than meat, and superior to it in regard to both mechanical and mental performance. Such food, moreover, taxes our digestive organs decidedly less, and, in making us more contented and sociable, produces an amount of good difficult to estimate. The year 2100 will see eugenics universally established. In past ages, the law governing the survival of the fittest roughly weeded out the less desirable strains. Then man's new sense of pity began to interfere with the ruthless workings of nature. As a result, we continue to keep alive and to breed the unfit. The Secretary of Hygiene or Physical Culture will be far more important in the cabinet of the President of the United States who holds office in the year 2035 than the Secretary of War. It seems that I have always been ahead of my time. I had to wait 19 years before Niagara was harnessed by my system. 15 years before the basic inventions for wireless which I gave to the world in 1893 were applied universally. The earth is bountiful, and where her bounty fails, nitrogen drawn from the air will refertilize her womb. I developed a process for this purpose in 1900. It was perfected 14 years later under the stress of war by German chemists. The universal utilization of water power and its long-distance transmission will supply every household with cheap power and will dispense with the necessity of burning fuel. The struggle for existence being lessened, there should be development along ideal rather than material lines. There is no memory or retentive faculty based on lasting impression. What we designate as memory is but increased responsiveness to repeated stimuli. We wind a simple ring of iron with coils. We establish the connections to the generator, and with wonder and delight we note the effects of strange forces which we bring into play, which allow us to transform, to transmit, and direct energy at will. I constructed a laboratory in the neighborhood of Pikes Peak. The conditions in the pure air of the Colorado mountains proved extremely favorable for my experiments, and the results were most gratifying to me. The trend of opinion among eugenists is that we must make marriage more difficult. Certainly no one who is not a desirable parent should be permitted to produce progeny. I have already demonstrated, by crucial tests, the practicability of signaling by my system from one to any other point of the globe, no matter how remote, and I shall soon convert the disbelievers. At a time not distant, it will be possible to flash any image formed in thought on a screen and render it visible at any place desired. The perfection of this means of reading thought will create a revolution for the better in all our social relations. Electrical science has revealed to us the true nature of light. has provided us with innumerable appliances and instruments of precision, and has thereby vastly added to the exactness of our knowledge of the various branches of electrical investigation. Perhaps the most interesting and immediately the most promising is that dealing with alternating currents. The newspapers of the 21st century will give a mere stick in the back pages to accounts of crime or political controversies, but will headline on the front pages the proclamation of a new scientific hypothesis. We have soon to have everywhere smoke annihilators, dust absorbers, ozonizers, sterilizers of water, air, food and clothing, and accident preventers on streets, elevated roads, and in subways. It will become next to impossible to contract disease, germs, or get hurt in the city, and country folk will got to town to rest and get well. We have soon to have everywhere smoke annihilators, dust absorbers, ozonizers, sterilizers of water, air, food and clothing, and accident preventers on streets, elevated roads, and in subways. It will become next to impossible to contract disease, germs, or get hurt in the city, and country folk will got to town to rest and get well. All knowledge or form conception is evoked through the medium of the eye, either in response to disturbances directly received on the retina or to their fainter secondary effects and reverberations. Other sense organs can only call forth feelings which have no reality of existence and of which no conception can be formed. The history of science shows that theories are perishable. With every new truth that is revealed, we get a better understanding of nature, and our conceptions and views are modified. Archimedes was my ideal. I admired the works of artists, but to my mind, they were only shadows and semblances. The inventor, I thought, gives to the world creations which are palpable, which live and work. Electrical science has disclosed to us the more intimate relation existing between widely different forces and phenomena, and has thus led us to a more complete comprehension of nature and its many manifestations to our senses. If we want to reduce poverty and misery, if we want to give to every deserving individual what is needed for a safe existence of an intelligent being, we want to provide more machinery, more power. Power is our mainstay, the primary source of our many-sided energies, the main foundations of every state. New states as well as ancient or composite ones are good laws. In good arms you cannot have good laws without good arms. And where there are good arms, good laws inevitably follow. We cannot attribute to fortune or virtue that which is achieved without either. War should be the only study of a prince. He should consider peace only as a breathing time, which gives him leisure to contrive and furnishes as ability to execute military plans. A wise ruler ought never to keep faith, when by doing so it would be against his interests. Princes and governments are far more dangerous than other elements within society. To understand the nature of the people, one must be a prince. And to understand the nature of the prince, one must be of the people. A son can bear with equanimity the loss of his father, but the loss of his inheritance may drive him to despair. The wish to acquire more is admittedly a very natural and common thing, and when men succeed in this, they are always praised rather than condemned. But when they lack the ability to do so and yet want to acquire more at all costs, they deserve condemnation for their mistakes. Whoever conquers a free town and does not demolish it commits a great error, and may expect to be ruined himself. Since it is difficult to join them together, it is safer to be feared than to be loved when one of the two must be lacking.